Have you ever felt like your day was made by helping someone? It feels amazing, doesn't it? But what if I told you there's a dark side to constantly helping others? Helping others is undoubtedly virtuous, but when it's done without balance, it can have unintended consequences. The constant drive to care for others without taking time to care for yourself can lead to burnout, resentment, and even a loss of identity. One Stoic belief that directly addresses this is, self-care isn't selfish. The Stoics understood that in order to be truly effective in helping others, we must first ensure that we ourselves are strong, grounded, and whole. In fact, self-care, when done properly, is not only necessary for our well-being, but it enhances our ability to serve others. Let's explore the surprising ways helping others can harm you and how Stoicism can provide a path to balance. In this conversation, we'll mix philosophical insight, real-world examples, and practical advice to help you find a healthier way to help both yourself and others. Ready? Let's dive in. How often have you said yes when you really wanted to say no? It's a familiar feeling, right? That overwhelming sense of emotional weight, like you're constantly being asked to help, but you don't have the energy or time to give. At first, it seems harmless to lend a hand, but over time, it starts to feel like a burden. You start resenting the very people you once wanted to help, and eventually, you burn out. This is what I like to call the doormat trap, the cycle of constantly saying yes and allowing others to walk all over your time, energy, and well-being. It's exhausting and, over time, can breed resentment. You say yes because you don't want to disappoint, but then you end up feeling drained and unappreciated. Think about those times at work when you took on another project just because you couldn't say no, or in family situations where you kept agreeing to do things even though you were already overwhelmed. It happens in friendships too, when you keep giving without taking care of your own needs. Stoic philosophy has a lot to say about boundaries and the importance of conserving your energy. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, often reflected on the necessity of self-control. He understood that we cannot be effective in helping others if we are constantly overextending ourselves. His advice encourages us to recognize our limits, acknowledge our own needs, and preserve our energy for what truly matters. So how can we avoid falling into the doormat trap? It's all about learning how to say no, gently but firmly, and setting healthy boundaries. It's not about rejecting others, but rather protecting your well-being so you can continue to be of value. Saying no isn't selfish, it's necessary. When you set boundaries, you manage your time and energy in a way that allows you to be more present and effective when you do choose to help. What happens when you learn to say no? Let's find out in the next section. You've helped them, but when you didn't get a thank you, something inside you stung, right? It's a feeling many of us know too well. You put time and energy into helping someone, expecting a simple thank you, or perhaps some form of reciprocity. But when that gratitude doesn't come, you're left feeling disappointed, even bitter. It's a strange, gnawing sensation, the expectation that your kindness should be acknowledged. This is what I call the expectation trap. The tension that arises when you give but don't receive what you anticipated in return, whether that's gratitude, recognition, or even a favor down the line. It's easy to fall into this trap when we help others, and it can lead to feelings of resentment or frustration when our expectations aren't met. Think about that time you went out of your way to help a friend or co-worker, only to be met with silence or indifference. You did something nice, and yet you felt let down. Stoic philosophy offers a powerful remedy to this dilemma. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoics, taught that our happiness should never be dependent on the behavior or responses of others. He stressed the importance of detaching our sense of fulfillment from the expectations we have about the outcome of our actions. Instead of seeking external validation, we should focus solely on the act of doing good for its own sake. In this way, we free ourselves from the sting of unreciprocated help because we find joy and satisfaction in simply doing what is right. So how can we shift our mindset? The key is to embrace selfless service, helping others without the need for acknowledgement or reward. When you focus on the act itself rather than the result, you begin to find true fulfillment in your actions. You give because it is the right thing to do, not because you expect something in return. What if doing good for others can actually make you more resilient and fulfilled? Let's explore this deeper. Have you ever had a friend who constantly needs rescuing, yet never learns from their mistakes? It's a frustrating experience, isn't it? You keep stepping in, offering solutions, but no matter how many times you help, they seem to repeat the same patterns, never taking responsibility for their own growth. It's almost like you're doing all the heavy lifting while they stay stuck in a cycle of dependency. This is what I call the enabler trap. When you constantly step in to solve someone else's problems, you might feel like you're helping, but in reality, you could be stunting their personal growth. They never learn how to handle challenges on their own, and over time, you may even find yourself feeling exhausted or resentful. Think of that family member who always has a crisis on hand but never takes the initiative to make lasting changes, or that friend who relies on you for every little problem but never tries to fix things independently. It's a dynamic that can easily wear you down. The Stoics offer a different perspective. Cicero, a Roman philosopher, emphasized the importance of self-reliance and virtue. He believed that true wisdom comes from facing challenges directly, rather than avoiding them or relying on others to solve them. Stoicism teaches that we should encourage others to develop their own resilience and wisdom, rather than shielding them from the difficulties that help them grow. Helping someone doesn't always mean solving their problems for them. Sometimes, the most valuable thing you can do is let them face their own struggles and find their own solutions. So, how can we help without enabling? The key is giving constructive help, guiding someone to find their own answers, rather than doing it for them. Encourage them to think critically, to problem solve, and to take responsibility for their actions. It's not about abandoning them. It's about empowering them to grow and build their own strength. But what if helping someone doesn't mean doing everything for them? Here's why letting them fail is sometimes the most powerful help. Let's dive into that. Ever felt like you're giving so much of yourself that you don't have anything left? You're not alone. It's a common experience for many of us, especially when we're constantly focused on helping others. At first, it feels good to be there for everyone, but over time, the constant giving can leave you feeling depleted, exhausted, and disconnected from your own needs. This is what I call the burnout trap. When you prioritize others' needs so much that you end up neglecting your own. Whether it's a volunteer who takes on too many commitments, a caregiver who constantly gives but forgets to care for themselves, or someone who just keeps saying yes without considering the toll it takes. This trap is all too easy to fall into. Over time, it's not just physical exhaustion, it's emotional and mental drain that can lead to burnout, and eventually a sense of resentment toward the very people you've been helping. The Stoics had a different view on this. Cato, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often talked about the importance of maintaining one's inner peace and health. He believed that in order to be truly helpful to others, we must first take care of ourselves. Self-care, as the Stoics saw it, is not selfish, it's essential. Without a solid foundation of health and well-being, we cannot offer our best selves to others. The Stoics teach us that balance is key. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So how can you avoid burnout while still being there for others? The answer lies in Stoic self-care principles. This means creating time for rest, prioritizing your own needs, and reframing taking care of yourself as an investment in your ability to serve others. Instead of seeing self-care as a luxury or indulgence, view it as a necessary part of being able to show up for those who need you. By maintaining balance, you ensure that you have the strength, energy, and mental clarity to help others without sacrificing your own well-being. But how can you manage this delicate balance between self-care and helping others? Let's dive deeper into this in the next section. Sometimes, the best way to help is to step back and let someone handle their own problems. It might sound counterintuitive, especially when we're so used to jumping in and offering solutions. But think about it. How often have you stepped in to rescue someone even when they didn't really need saving? You wanted to help, of course, but in doing so, you might have unintentionally taken away their opportunity to learn and grow. This is what I call the hero complex, the drive to rescue others even when they're capable of solving their own problems. It can feel good to be the hero, but sometimes we step into situations where the best help is simply stepping back. For instance, a parent constantly stepping in to fix every problem for their child can prevent that child from learning important life skills. Or perhaps you've had a friend who relied on you for every little decision, even though they could have figured it out themselves. In these situations, we think we're being helpful, but we're not giving others the chance to build the resilience and independence they need. The Stoics had a lot to say about this kind of heroism. Seneca, in particular, believed that teaching others to stand on their own feet was a far more valuable form of help than providing constant support. He argued that by always stepping in, we can actually make others weaker, denying them the opportunity to learn and grow. The Stoics taught that resilience is built through adversity, and sometimes the best way to help is to give people the space to face their challenges on their own. So, how can we practice the art of stepping back? It's all about recognizing when someone is capable of solving their own problems and teaching them the tools to do so. Rather than jumping in with an answer, offer guidance, encouragement, and the confidence that they can handle it. Empower others to find their own solutions, which not only helps them grow, but also builds their confidence and self-reliance. What if your silence, your step back, could be the key to someone else's success? Here's why it matters. Do you ever feel like you've taken on someone else's pain as your own? It's a powerful feeling, isn't it? When a loved one is struggling, it can be hard not to absorb their emotions, their pain, and their stress. You want to help, and naturally, you feel deeply for them. But sometimes, the line between empathy and over-identifying with their struggles becomes blurry, leaving you emotionally drained. This is what I call the empathy trap, the tendency to take on others' pain as if it were your own. While empathy is important, over-identifying with someone else's problems can deplete your emotional resources. Think about that time you helped a friend through a personal crisis, and by the end of it, you were left feeling just as exhausted and overwhelmed as they were. You wanted to be there for them, but in doing so, you took on too much of their emotional burden. The Stoics offer a helpful perspective on this. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, encouraged us to focus inwardly and not let ourselves become consumed by external emotions, especially those of others. He emphasized that we cannot control how others feel or act, and trying to do so will only deplete our own energy. Stoicism teaches emotional detachment, not in the sense of being cold, but in the sense of maintaining healthy boundaries. You can empathize with someone without absorbing their pain, understanding that while their struggles are real, their emotional journey is theirs to manage. So, how can we avoid the empathy trap? The key is setting healthy emotional boundaries. It's important to be there for others and show compassion, but you also need to take care of your own emotional health. Learn how to empathize without becoming overwhelmed by their feelings. Acknowledge their pain, but remember that their struggles don't have to become your own. You can offer support without losing yourself in their emotional world. Can empathy be a double-edged sword? Let's explore how to strike the balance. Imagine a world where helping others brings joy, not burnout or resentment. It sounds almost too good to be true, right? But what if the key to truly enjoying the act of helping lies in rediscovering pure altruism, the kind of giving that doesn't come with strings attached or expectations of return? In this world, small, genuine acts of kindness can have a profound impact. Maybe it's offering a sincere compliment, helping a neighbor with groceries, or simply listening when someone needs to talk. These acts don't drain you. Instead, they uplift both you and the person you're helping. They create a sense of connection and fulfillment that is rewarding for everyone involved. Think about a time when you helped someone with no expectation of anything in return, and how it made you feel. That joy, that lightness, is the essence of pure altruism. It's about giving because it feels good to give, not because you're trying to earn something or fix someone else's problems. The Stoics believed in living in harmony with nature, and part of that was understanding how helping others can fit into our lives without draining us. When we act in accordance with our values and well-being, rather than out of obligation or to fulfill a need for validation, we can experience true fulfillment. Stoicism teaches that we should approach helping others from a place of strength and balance, ensuring that our own needs are met so we can give freely. This way, helping becomes a source of joy rather than a burden. So, how do we create a world where helping brings joy instead of burnout? It starts with giving from a place of genuine care, without expectations, and recognizing that the best way to help others is to be strong, whole, and balanced ourselves. When we align our actions with our values, we create a sense of fulfillment that nourishes both us and the people we help. Helping doesn't have to be a sacrifice. It can be a source of joy. Let's keep that in mind as we move forward.